It all began innocently enough. I lived a quiet life in the suburbs with my cat Garfield. He was a bit lazy, a bit greedy, but I never thought much of it. He was just a cat after all. Life in the suburbs followed its usual rhythm. Days melded into weeks, and I went about my routine. It started with whispers among the neighbors, casual remarks about Mrs. Arbuckle's absence from the neighborhood gatherings, but like most, I brushed it off as the ebb and flow of suburban life. One evening, as I returned home from work, I found Garfield lounging on the windowsill, his eyes lazily following the movement of the outside world. I greeted him with a tired smile, grateful for his comforting presence in an otherwise mundane day. The evening progressed much like any other. I prepared dinner, a simple yet satisfying lasagna, while Garfield watched with mild interest from his perch on the kitchen counter. As I set the steaming dish on the table, Garfield's demeanor shifted, his eyes sharpening with an unexpected intensity. Ignoring my attempts to shoo him away, Garfield prowled around the table, his nose twitching as he caught a scent of the freshly baked lasagna. His behavior stuck out to me as odd, but I chalked it up to the insatiable appetite and thought nothing more of it. That night, as I lay in bed, the events of the evening replayed in my mind. There was something unsettling about Garfield's behavior, something I couldn't quite shake off. A sense of unease settled over me like a heavy blanket, casting a shadow over my thoughts. In the darkness of my room, I listened to the faint sounds emanating from the kitchen below. Strange, slurping noises echoed through the silence, sending a chill down my spine. I dismissed it as my imagination running wild, but a nagging voice in the back of my head whispered of unease, horrors lurking in the shadows. Unable to shake the feeling of unease, I rose from my bed and made my way downstairs, heart pounding in my chest. What I saw in the kitchen filled me with terror unlike I had ever known. Garfield stood over the empty lasagna dish, his form bathed in the dim light filtering through the window. But it wasn't just Garfield that unnerved me. It was the darkness that enveloped him, a palpable presence that seemed to pulsate with malevolence. I tried to call out to him, but my voice caught in my throat as Garfield turned to face me, his eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. And then, with a voice that chilled me to my bone, he spoke.
"Feed me, Jon."
His words echoed through the room, each syllable dropping with an unnatural hunger.
"Feed me, or join the others via this."
I stumbled backwards, my mind reeling with disbelief. How could my beloved cat be capable of such monstrous deeds? It looked nothing like him. His body stretched and malformed, just barely appearing to be a cat. His face elongated itself to the point the majority of it was taken up by a large, toothy grin, covered in what I'd hoped was pasta sauce. His large, outstretched feet, which were met at the ends by claws that could have been mistaken for large pieces of steel. He was a gigantic effigy of gluttony that was situated in the center of my kitchen. With trembling hands, I began to prepare another batch of lasagna, my movements guided by a primal fear that threatened to consume me. The ingredients before me were wrong. They were normal pasta and sauce you would find in a traditional lasagna, but the meat that was presented before me was rancid. The putrid stench coming off of it was foul. I also could have sworn I saw an ear in it. I didn't dare to question what it was. If I had, then the questionable morality of my situation would most likely get me killed. I put the ingredients together and then set the now horrible smelling and awful pasta dish into the oven to cook. As I did, the large feline stared at me intently, as if I made one wrong move, I would no longer inhabit my body. He glared at me with that huge smile of his gazing deep into the pit that was growling in my stomach. He spoke once more.
"What's the matter, Jon? I won't hurt you. You've always taken good care of me."
His voice was like sandpaper grating against my ears. His words came out broken and completely clear at the same time, as if a million voices were speaking directly to me at once. As the sweat beaded down my face and dripped onto the floor during the minutes it took for the meal to cook, the beast and I stared at each other, only him making noise and twitching ever so slightly. I didn't make any subtle movements, even when the oven timer finally dinged, signaling that the dish was finally done. I turned slowly, put on my oven mitts, and pulled it gently out of the oven. It smelled like death. I almost gagged when the putrid stench hit my nostrils, but I contained myself, swallowing the vomit that had appeared in my throat. I turned slowly towards him, facing this monstrosity, and was met with something I didn't expect. The large beast was now acting like a cat would. His form had not changed, but he was now pacing around me, eerily agile for a being of his size. I had laid the lasagna on the counter for him to consume. As I did, he kept at it with such a ferocity. I thought he was going to devour me with it. As I sat there watching this horrific thing eat a meal that I used to make as a treat for my beloved pet, I knew nothing would ever be the same. This was cemented when the thing looked back at me and said,
"You have survived for now, Jon. But if you fail to satiate my hunger, you will be the next to join all the others in the abyss."